June 6, 1944, 1:47 a.m., 600 feet above Sainte-Mère-Église, France. Private First Class Eddie Grant can't breathe. The C-47 slipstream tears at him as he hangs in the doorway, one hand white-knuckled on the static line, the other clutching his reserve. Below, tracers arc up through the darkness, lazy orange curves that accelerate into streaks as they claw toward the formation. The Pathfinders dropped 20 minutes ago. Now it's his turn. First Sergeant Kowalski's hand slams between his shoulder blades. Go! Grant disappears into the night. The opening shock punches the air from his lungs. His chute snaps full with a crack like artillery, and suddenly the chaos has dimensions. The rattle of .30 cal fire from neighboring aircraft, the whump of flak bursting at altitude, the burning farmhouse 2 miles east painting the hedgerows in flickering orange. He's supposed to be dropping on Drop Zone C. The smoke rising from Sainte-Mère-Église tells him he's nowhere close. Grant hits a hedgerow doing 15 miles an hour. Branches claw his face. His helmet snaps forward, vision goes black, and he's upside down in Norman vegetation with 120 pounds of gear trying to strangle him. He cuts himself free with his jump knife, 3 savage slashes, and drops 6 feet into a drainage ditch full of cold water that smells like livestock and old earth. Silence. Then footsteps. Grant freezes, water soaking through his wool trousers, one hand fumbling at his right thigh. His Thompson is gone, ripped away during the descent. $200 of machined steel now decorating some French farmer's field. His Colt 45 is holstered, but in this darkness, against voices he can't identify, a pistol is a prayer. His other hand finds the canvas Griswold bag strapped across his chest. Inside, an M1A1 Carbine, folding stock model, serial number 4,755,289, manufactured 8 months earlier at the Inland Manufacturing Division of General Motors in Dayton, Ohio. 16 inches long when folded, 36 when deployed, 5.5 pounds loaded, and right now in this ditch, with boots closing in and his unit scattered across 6 square miles of occupied France. It's the only thing between Eddie Grant and a shallow grave in Normandy. He tears open the bag's flap. His fingers find cold steel, the familiar pistol grip, the wire stock folded flat against the receiver. There's a spring-loaded button under his thumb, a cam lock so simple a design engineer could sketch it on a cocktail napkin. He presses it. The stock springs out with a metallic snick, locked solid against his shoulder. Chamber check. Brass glints in the moonlight. He's hot. The footsteps stop. A voice, German, sharp, questioning, 20 yards, maybe less. Grant rises from the water like something prehistoric, carbine at low ready, mud streaming from his gear. The Wehrmacht patrol, 3 men, bolt-action Kar 98Ks slung casual, spots him the same instant. For a frozen half-second, nobody moves. Then Grant's front sight finds the nearest coal scuttle helmet, and a .30 caliber carbine round does what John Guerin's engineers promised it would do. It puts a 110-grain bullet through a man-sized target at 100 yards with enough energy to drop him where he stands. The M1A1 barks. Recoil is a gentle nudge. The German goes down. Grant pivots, muscle memory from 8 weeks at Camp Toccoa, and fires again. The second man crumples into the hedgerow. The third runs. Grant doesn't chase him. He's already moving perpendicular, weapon up, scanning for muzzle flash, listening for the cricket clicker signal that means friendlies. 2 clicks, left flank, then 2 more. Grant answers with his own clicker and moves toward the sound, carbine stock still pressed to his shoulder, finger indexed along the receiver. 30 seconds ago, he was helpless in a ditch. Now he's combat effective, linked up and hunting. The M1A1 folding stock carbine didn't exist 3 years ago. The problem it solved, paratroopers hitting the ground unarmed, had killed men in Sicily, in Italy, in every night drop where soldiers had to land, find cover, unpack a rifle from a padded bag, assemble it in darkness under fire, and only then fight back. It was a tactical absurdity born from equipment limitations, a death sentence wrapped in canvas. Inland Manufacturing, a division better known for making steering columns and dashboard parts, had fixed it with 19 inches of spring steel wire, a pivot pin, and a cam lock that belonged on a kitchen cabinet. The result was a weapon you could carry compact, deploy in 2 seconds, and trust with your life. On D-Day, across the Normandy drop zones, 13,000 American paratroopers would discover what Eddie Grant just learned in a flooded ditch. When you can't afford to wait, the gun that's ready first wins. 18 months earlier, November 12, 1942, Inland Manufacturing Division, Dayton, Ohio. Fred Humiston stares at the telegram like it might bite him. The War Department wants folding stock carbines. Not requests, not suggests, wants. Delivery timeline, 6 months. Quantity, unspecified, but the word thousands appears 3 times in 4 paragraphs. The Airborne Command has made it a priority acquisition, which means some colonel in Washington has decided that Fred Humiston, a 52-year-old tool and die man who spent the last 20 years designing jigs for General Motors dashboard stampings, is now responsible for re-engineering America's most successful light rifle. He reads it again. The problem is clear enough. Standard M1 carbines are 36 inches long. You can't jump out of an airplane with 3 feet of rifle strapped to your body. The current solution is the M1A1 parachutist's bag, a padded canvas envelope that holds a disassembled carbine, barrel separated, stock removed. Soldier lands, finds cover, unpacks components, reassembles weapon under fire. In theory, it takes 90 seconds. In practice, in darkness, under German machine gun fire, with your hands shaking and half your squad scattered across enemy territory, it takes forever, if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, you die with a bag full of gun parts. The telegram doesn't mention Sicily, but Humiston has read the after-action reports. July 1943, Operation Husky. The 82nd Airborne's first combat jump. High winds, scattered drops, parachutists landing miles from their objectives, alone, disoriented. The ones who survived the landing often didn't survive the 30 seconds it took to get their rifles operational. German patrols learned quickly. Shoot the Americans while they're fumbling with canvas bags. The 54th Parachute Infantry Regiment lost men that way. Good men. Men who hit the ground armed with nothing but frustration and a poorly designed carrying case. Humiston sets the telegram down and walks to the production floor. Inlim's Dayton facility is a cacophony of metal and motion. Drill presses hammering, lathes screaming. The smell of cutting oil and hot steel thick enough to taste. Since 1941, they've been cranking out M1 carbines at a pace that would have seemed impossible in peacetime. Inland didn't design the carbine. That honor belongs to Winchester, based on work by David Marshall Williams, but they've manufactured more of them than anyone else. Over 2.6 million by war's end, though Humiston doesn't know that yet. Right now, in November 1942, he just knows they're good at making things in volume. But folding stocks? That's a different problem. He finds Jim Howe in the tool room, elbow deep in a receiver jig. Howe is younger, 34, sharp-eyed, the kind of engineer who sees solutions in negative space. Humiston drops the telegram on his workbench. We've got 6 months to make a carbine that folds. Howe reads, frowns. Stock or barrel? Stock. Barrel stays full length. They want functional accuracy. Weight limit. Doesn't say, but the paratroopers are already hauling 80, 90 pounds of gear. We add weight, they'll hate us. Howe nods slowly, already thinking. The M1 carbine is a beautiful piece of engineering. Gas-operated, semi-automatic, 15-round detachable magazine, weighing 5.2 pounds empty. Its wooden stock runs the full length of the barrel, providing rigidity and protection. You can't just saw it off and weld on a hinge. Wood doesn't fold. And replacing it with a metal skeleton means redesigning the entire receiver-to-stock interface, the recoil assembly, the gas system's bearing points. Springfield Armory tried this 2 years ago. M1 Garand folding stock prototype. Know what happened? Enlighten me. 47 moving parts, 3 locking mechanisms, weighed 9 pounds, failed stress testing after 200 rounds. They want reliability, simplicity, and they want it yesterday. Humiston lights a lucky strike, takes a long drag. Then we don't overcomplicate it. Meaning, meaning we use what works. Piano wire stock, single pivot point, spring-loaded cam lock, same principle as a cabinet door catch. Fold it, it stays folded. Deploy it, it locks. Solid. No screws to lose, no levers to jam. You could operate it with mittens on. Howe considers this. Wire stock means no cheek weld. Accuracy suffers. Paratroopers aren't snipers. They're clearing rooms and fighting in hedgerows. They need something that works at 50 yards, not 500. The recoil is manageable. The .30 carbine round is mild, lighter than a .45 ACP. If we use 3/16-inch spring steel and distribute the load across 3 points of contact, the stock will handle it. Howe picks up a pencil, starts sketching on the telegram's reverse. Pivot point here, cam lock here, spring tension. His pencil moves faster. We'd need to mill a new receiver plate, redesign the rear sight mount, test the folding mechanism for at least 5,000 cycles. I know, we've got 6 months. Let's get started. What neither man says aloud, they're not just designing a folding stock. They're designing a chance. A chance for a paratrooper to hit the ground and fight back immediately. A chance to survive the first 30 seconds when survival is a coin flip. A chance for men like Eddie Grant, though Humiston will never know his name, to walk out of a Norman ditch instead of dying in one. By December, the first prototype is on the test rack. By February, it's in front of airborne command evaluators. By April 1943, Inland Manufacturing has a contract for 140,000 units. And by June 6, 1944, those folding stock M1A1 carbines are falling from the sky over France. July 9, 1943, 10:37 p.m., 1,200 feet above the Sicilian coast. Lieutenant Robert Matheson checks his M1A1 for the 4th time in 10 minutes. This is it. Operation Husky, the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment's first combat jump, and the first operational deployment of Inland's folding stock carbine in anger. Matheson's weapon, serial number 2981, has been through Fort Benning's torture tests, mud immersion, sand exposure, repeated folding cycles, hard drops onto concrete. It passed everything. But lab tests don't shoot back. The red light above the door glows like a malevolent eye. 34 men in the stick, most carrying standard M1 carbines in Griswold bags. Matheson's one of 50 officers in the regiment issued the new folder. Airborne Command wants field data. They're about to get it. Wind hammers through the open door. The jumpmaster's hand goes up. Matheson's fingers find the cam lock button on his carbine. Checking, always checking, and the stock is folded tight against the receiver. Held secure by the spring-loaded mechanism Humiston and Howe sweated over in Dayton. 16 inches of firearm strapped across his chest. Compact, accessible, ready. Green light. Go, go, go! Matheson goes. The drop is chaos. High winds scatter the formation across 12 miles of Sicilian countryside. Matheson's chute deploys clean, but he's coming in fast, too fast, and the ground rises up like a fist. He hits an olive grove doing 20 miles per hour, tucks, rolls, and slams into a stone wall that's been there since the Romans. His helmet rings like a bell. Vision tunnels. When it clears, he's alone in enemy territory with German voices shouting from the farmhouse 60 yards north. His hands move on autopilot. Unhook chest strap, find carbine, thumb the cam lock. The wire stock snaps out, snick, and locks against his shoulder with the solid confidence of good engineering. Chamber check, round seated, magazine, full. Matheson is combat ready in under 5 seconds. A Schmeisser MP40 opens up from the farmhouse. Bullets chip stone 3 feet from his head, and Matheson returns fire 3 quick shots, semi-auto. The carbines report sharp and clean in the Mediterranean night. A shadow drops from the second-floor window. Matheson moves, angles for cover, keeps shooting. The M1A1's 15-round magazine empties fast. He drops it, slams in a fresh one from his ammo pouch, and charges the bolt. The whole reload takes 4 seconds. This is what Humiston designed it for, not for marksmanship competitions or parade ground inspections. For this, the desperate algebra of a firefight where seconds are currency, and the only gun that matters is the one that works right now. Matheson holds that farmhouse for 40 minutes before Sergeant DeMarco appears out of the darkness with 8 men from 2nd Platoon. Half of them are still trying to assemble their standard M1s, fingers clumsy with adrenaline, parts slippery with sweat. Matheson's carbine has put down 3 Germans and suppressed a machine gun position. When they finally link up with the main force at dawn, his after-action report is 3 sentences long. M1A1 folding stock carbine performed flawlessly. Deployment time under fire immediate. Reliability absolute. Recommend widespread issue to airborne units. 11 months later, June 6, 1944, 3:14 a.m., 2 miles south of Saint-Mère-Élyée. Eddie Grant has found his war. Since dropping into that ditch, he's linked up with a scratch team of 7 paratroopers, none from his original stick, 2 he doesn't even know the names of. They've been moving toward the sound of gunfire, toward the church bells of Saint-Mère-Élyée, toward whatever concentration of American forces might still exist. The M1A1 hasn't left Grant's shoulder. It's become an extension of his body, compact when moving through hedgerows, instantly deployable when German patrols appear out of the darkness. They've made contact twice. Both times, Grant's carbine spoke first. Now they're pinned in a collapsed barn by a German squad with a MG-42 machine gun that sounds like God tearing canvas. Tracers rake the timbers above their heads at 1,200 rounds per minute. The paratrooper next to Grant, name tape reads Wilson, is still wrestling with his M1, trying to fit the stock to the receiver with hands that won't stop shaking. "Forget it," Grant shouts over the machine gun roar. He thrusts his M1A1 into Wilson's hands. "Use mine. Cover the left window." Wilson stares at the folding stock carbine like it's alien technology. "How do I—" "Button under your thumb. Press it. Stock deploys. Point and shoot." Wilson's thumb finds the camlock. The stock snaps out. His eyes widen. "Jesus Christ, that's simple." "Yeah, that's the point." They hold that barn for 20 minutes. 3 men with M1A1s, 4 with finely assembled M1s, trading fire with the Wehrmacht infantry who've been dug into Normandy's hedgerows for 4 years. The carbines aren't perfect. Their .30 caliber rounds lack the punch of a Garand's .30-06, can't penetrate the stone walls that dominate Norman architecture, but they're fast, reliable, and in the dark geometry of close-quarters fighting, fast matters more than powerful. When the MG-42 finally goes silent, killed by a bazooka team that materializes from the east, Grant reclaims his carbine from Wilson. The wire stock is warm from firing. The receiver smells like burnt powder and hot metal. He folds it, checks the action, reloads. 50 rounds through the weapon since he landed. 0 malfunctions. Inland Manufacturing built 140,591 M1A1 carbines between 1942 and 1945. They saw action in Sicily, Italy, Normandy, Holland during Market Garden, the Ardennes during the Battle of the Bulge, and across the Rhine into Germany. Paratroopers loved them. Airborne commanders requisitioned them by the thousands. After-action reports praised their reliability, their instant readiness, their elegant simplicity. The M1A1 never became famous. It didn't have the Garand's reputation or the Thompsons' Hollywood glamour, but in the hedgerows of France, in the rubble of German cities, in every desperate moment when a paratrooper needed a weapon right now, the folding stock carbine delivered. Fred Humiston never received a medal, neither did Jim Howe. The War Department's telegram didn't mention glory, just delivery schedules and specifications. But their wire stock design, born from a refusal to overcomplicate the problem, saved lives that June morning and 1,000 mornings after. Eddie Grant survives D-Day. He'll fight through France, jump into Holland with the 101st, and limp home to Pennsylvania in 1946 with a Purple Heart and an M1A1 Carbine he's not supposed to keep, but does anyway. 50 years later, his grandson will find it in the attic, still functional, the cam lock still crisp, the spring steel still true. He'll ask what it is. Grant will tell him, it's the gun that worked when it mattered. That's the lesson of the M1A1. Not innovation for innovation's sake, not complexity masquerading as sophistication, just clear-eyed problem-solving. Paratroopers needed a weapon they could deploy instantly under fire, so inland manufacturing gave them exactly that. A folding stock, a camlock, 19 inches of spring steel. Simple, reliable, deadly. In war, the best design is the one that works the first time. The M1A1 folding stock carbine worked every time.